Hi, my name is Megan Lautz. I'm a registered dietitian and trainer for Fairfax Fire and Rescue, and this is Jake Patton, our strength coach. And today what we're going to talk about is preparing for the CPAT or going through CPAT exercises as a smaller statured person. Now, I'm a civilian. I took the CPAT when I started with Fire and Rescue, and it took me about 3 times to get through the test. It's a really hard test, it's high intensity, and even as a trainer who's pretty strong and pretty fit, it was challenging for me because I'm not a bigger person. I don't have weight to move weight. So there's a couple little tricks that we're going to teach you today that's going to help you get through the test and make it a little bit easier to get through the time. Again, you've got to pass in 10 minutes and 20 seconds or less. And for me, it was easy to get through the test. The time was the issue. So what we want to make sure is you get through all the exercises and all the rotations in 10 minutes and 20 seconds. So one thing you want to think about when you're getting ready to work for the CPAT, or you have to do training at home by yourself, you want to buy a weight vest. Now, this is a 50-pound weight vest, and those can get a little expensive. If you're able to afford that, definitely buy it, wear it around the house, start getting used to that weight on your body. If you can't do a 50-pound one, even 20 pounds, 25 pounds, and going on walks, going on runs, starting to get used to having that weight on your body can help significantly when trying to pass the test. The other thing is if you're smaller and you're tiny, now Jake is not that, but we're gonna use him as our little model today, is when they put the vest on you, you can actually tuck this under and fold it over so that it's a little bit tighter on your waist. When you have that vest kind of, and you're going on the stair climb, it can move, which just a little bit of weight, on somebody who this is half of their body, you're gonna feel like you're gonna slide off of the stair mill. So it does make it a little bit easier if you tuck that right there. The other thing to think about is when I'm on the stair mill, and if you practice on the stair mill with your weight vest at home, is I lock my hands in and hold them here so I'm not tempted to grab onto things. Or sometimes people will hold it right here above their chest. It just kind of helps not, try and grab for the handles, which you cannot touch the handles after the first, I believe, 20 seconds of the test. For the equipment carry, you made this a little bit more challenging for Jake here because typically our 5-foot, some people, when the equipment's here, they're going to be here. So you almost have to transfer overhead and then get the weight down to the ground. So we always want to suggest doing the weights one at a time, getting the equipment down, rotating, and then placing it on the ground, and then grabbing the next piece of equipment as well. Get that safely down so you don't pull your back or twist or fall over. Again, you still have that 50 pounds on your back. To pick up the equipment, you want to go in a deadlift form and kind of squat or hinge backwards and then lift with your legs, not with your back. For the ladder raise and extension, we're actually going to start with the extension here today to show you the trick. For the raise, you're just going rung to rung and walking that ladder up the wall, and then you come to the extension. For the extension, as a smaller statured person, the biggest challenge is the grip strength. So if you don't hold it tight enough, that rope is going to slide through your hands, and especially with the gloves on, it's even harder to get that grip. If you can, what you want to do is create a kink in the rope, like that, so that it has a stop when you are pulling down. Now, our goal, you can put it down. Our goal here and throughout the events of the CPAT is to try and use as few muscles as possible because you've got 11 events that you've got to get through in a very short amount of time. So one of the tricks to the ladder raise and extension is to kink the grip and then drop your weight. And then raise, drop your weight. So Jake cheated a little bit, but that's okay. He can show. Yep, there you go. Great. So Jake cheated a little bit there where you could see that he pulled down with his lats. That's great if you have the strength. But again, when you're a smaller statured person, this is actually heavier than it looks. So it's a little bit easier to kink the grip or hold on as tight as you can, drop your weight. There you go. Yep. Good, and then trying to control that coming back down. That's where the kink comes in. You don't want to just let that ladder go because that could cause a disqualification there. So again, controlling that ladder back down with the kink grip or very tight hand over or over, under hand grip. At the Forcible Entry station, a lot of people think this chop is more of a arm dominant exercise, where it's actually more in the hips and using the power from your glutes and your legs to power the sledgehammer forward. One of the cues that people tend to do with CPAT is the suggestion to chop down. Yeah, so that and usually for females the thought would be that you have a little bit more you're using a little bit less muscle and you're using more gravity to get the forcible entry to go all the way down. But the challenge with that is when you hit it at an angle, it doesn't come all the way back. You actually have to hit this circle dead on. So the suggestion actually would be is to hold the weight at your hip and pivot and use the force of your hip and keep that sledgehammer as close as possible to your body so that lever isn't as far out. The further the sledgehammer is away from your body, the harder it is to control it. So again, keep it locked in and use your hips to slam the forcible entry down. At the dummy drag station, this is one of the more challenging stations of the entire CPAT, whether you're small statured or larger. The dummy weighs about 165 pounds, and some of the resistance comes from the friction between the dummy and the floor. This is the second to the last station, so by that point you're usually pretty gassed. As a smaller statured person, typically the suggestion that I had when I was in the CPAT was to muscle the dummy up and hold him by my chest so there was less friction, right? Well, 165 pounds is not coming up on my chest when I've got 50 pounds on my back and I've already been through 9 stations. So the suggestion is to go ahead and grab the dummy by the handles, and no matter how tall you are, even if you're 5 foot, you want to try and lift them up off the ground as much as you can, their upper body as much off the ground as you can. And even with this dummy, the elbows are supported a little bit. And my suggestion is to try and push back with your quads and use your lower body as much as you can, and just kind of let your arms hold on as hard as you can, but also not strain too much. So now if you can get the dummy up a little bit higher, that's less friction on the ground, but you also sometimes have to have a little bit more height to be able to do that. So you want to get the dummy off the ground a little bit, as much as you can, but it's going to depend on how tall you are. Working on your leg endurance and working on wearing a vest and maybe dragging a duffel bag full of books or something is a way that you could practice for this exercise. The ceiling breach and pull is the last event, and usually once you get through the dummy drag, you're going to feel pretty gassed. One of the biggest challenges that I had at the ceiling breach and pull was just making sure that the tip of the metal was connected for the push. You have to get through 3 pushes, 5 pulls, 4 times. And again, you might feel a little disoriented at this point. Your biggest thing is a lot of people just kind of grab the pull, hand over hand, and usually that leads to grip slipping and then the tip of the point falling through. So what you want to do is make sure you're supporting with the bottom hand, gripping onto the pole, and then using your hips to push up. So some of the shorter people might actually have to triple extend and actually use their calves and their hips to get all the way up. So the biggest trick though here is a lot of people just think I need to use my arms up and down. And again, that's going to gas you really quickly. So the more you can use your lower body, the better you'll be. Now when we come over to the pull, we're going to do the same trick that we did over at the ladder extension, is we're going to drop down with our hips. So the pull is actually going to be the easiest part. You just got to let your body weight go and then switch back. So again, it's going to be 4 of those back and forth, trying to use your body weight for the pull and then using your lower body for the push.